So let me ask you this. Although personally you believe that the Gyanvapi dispute in particular, and disputes like it should be settled locally and not through the court of law, you also believe that Justice Chandrachud as Chief Justice, by allowing the survey and saying, oh, the survey by itself doesn't violate places of worship, opened a Pandora's box that Chief Justice Khanna has today attempted to close.
Correct. That's correct. But more than Justice Chandrachud, of course, he opened the floodgate. Let us look at the Sambhal case. Why are we doing a survey? You know, there is a principle in law which is said res judicata. If a matter has been decided by a court in respect of a subject, it cannot be reopened again. Now,
Yeah.
about the Sambhal mosque, already in 1877, you had a judgment from the Muradabad court. Then an appeal was filed in the Allahabad High Court. And Allahabad High Court has said that on law and facts, the judgment is correct. And this judge who decided the case in the Muradabad court, under whose jurisdiction Sambhal was at that point of time, he himself went to the mosque and he himself made an inspection. As we say in Hindi, the adalat apne aap mauqe wardat par maujood thi ya gayi. So adalat ne wahan jaakar dekh liya. Forget about any surveyor submitting any report. So the Sambhal court, this Chandosi court, which entertained Sambhal petition, it went against the principle of res judicata also. In Mathura, there is another exception to places of worship act, which says if it has been settled through a settlement. So there has been some kind of settlement in Mathura. Strictly speaking, by law, you have to go by that settlement.
So what now? Ab kya hoga?
No, I think for the time being, you will have a temporary peace. Then the Supreme Court will hold a hearing on constitutionality. All of us will report and read what kind of arguments are made by both sides. If Supreme Court says that the law is constitutional, hopefully this debate would come to an end. I would still say, even if that happens, is still the Muslim community, the local community of Mathura and Kashi should sit together with the Hindu community locally without involving clergy, without involving national political leadership, without involving political parties, without involving organizations which say we are a cultural organization but basically are supported by the political party, and resolve the dispute amicably in such a way that both come out as winners.
But you have named Mathura and Kashi.
Because of the peculiar significance.
I understand. But then the hope must be, if communities are able to resolve this locally between themselves, keep the courts out, keep the politicians out, keep the clergy out, keep the religious leadership out, great. Will it end there? There has to be a cut-off point wherein even the RSS chief, and this bears repetition, has said that you cannot go looking for a shivling under every mosque.
Barkha monster is out and in nobody's control. Now, this thing cannot be controlled by anyone. Now, if Supreme Court bars filing of any suit, at least the judicial forum would end there. But, I always feel that no law means anything. Parliament can repeal the 1991 law as well.
But it'll need 2/3 majority for any government to do that.
No. It is an ordinary law. It is
it's a regular law.
Oh, it's an
okay, hang on. So sorry, I got that wrong.
Or it can be amended. But I am 100% sure there is no better and appropriate date, cutoff date, than August 15, 1947, because colonial rule came to an end. We are making a new beginning. So whatever character was there on that day, now many people are trying to conceive that.
I have a question. Sorry, I'm being a little buddhu
Go
here,
ahead,
but
go ahead.
allow me the question. You said Parliament can amend the law. My understanding was that because the Ayodhya verdict positions or says very clearly that the Places of Worship Act falls within the basic structure of the Constitution, the Parliament cannot amend this law as a simple law. Am I wrong?
No, it's not a question of wrong. You are not a student of law. You see, secularism is basic structure. Places of Worship Act is in pursuance of secularism. This is what the court has said. But
Right.
Parliament can modify the law if it wants. If it feels like, it can also repeal law, and no court would be able to do anything about it. But a likely scenario and better
I mean,
scenario would be,
the court can't say at that time theoretically that this change of law is in violation of the basic structure. This has weakened secularism, and therefore we do not agree. You see, after all, the Parliament unanimously passed a law on the appointment of judges, and the Supreme Court intervened and stopped that.
yeah, that's right. No, Supreme Court won't be able to say that. Let us assuming
Yeah.
hypothetically that Parliament
Yes.
repeals this law because the basic structure doctrine is to be invoked only in respect of constitutional amendment.
I
This is
see.
an ordinary law.
I see. I
Yeah.
see.
So
So a
if they make a
constitutional
constitutional
bench,
amendment
a
which impinges on basic structure, then then Supreme Court can strike down that amendment.
got it. Got it.
Yeah.
So a constitutional bench will have to decide on the constitutionality, but Parliament technically, technically can repeal or change this law, and the Supreme Court can't really do anything about it.
No, they may strike down that law if they find that this law is arbitrary,
Yes.
or if it violates any fundamental right, or it is contrary to constitution. They may
Right.
still strike it down. That power will be with the court to examine the constitutionality of any legislative action that is there. But for our country, when we say that nothing explains India better than diversity, we should bring these religious disputes to an end. If secularism really means modernity, it should have led to some kind of decline of religions. But we are living in the rush hour of God. We are all the time talking about religion. And that is not a good sign for us to become a developed country or Viksit Bharat by 2047.
Rush hour of God is quite the phrase of the day. Just before we close, what would be your hope from the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court has, as you said, halted this kind of copycat domino effect that we were seeing in trial courts across India. That is clearly gone. It will take its time in establishing constitutionality of this law, as you explained. What would be your hope at this point in
I,
terms of
I, I,
expectations from the Supreme Court?
I would expect that this will be one of the major judgments which, in this short tenure of 6 months, Justice Khanna would deliver. It is not right to predict what would be the outcome of a judgment. But if you are saying, as a student of constitutional law, my hope would be that the law will be upheld as constitutional because it is a big public policy issue. It's a decision, how do we end this debate? And therefore, we
Yeah.
say, you asked about the Ayodhya exception because it was already sub judice. The matter was already pending before the court. And therefore, they said that accept this. For rest of these matters, let us not change the character, whatever be the character. And to determine a character, Barkha, I would very strongly say no survey is required. You can see if it is a place of worship from 1 kilometer, whether prayers are going on in terms of namaz, or if it is a church, whether Saturday, Sunday, prayers are going on, if it is a temple where worship is going on. I personally don't really feel any difference. Someone asked that question between namaz and worship. Both are covered by freedom of religion. Both are covered. So there is absolutely no difference, except that for Muslims, the God is not there in that place as such, but we say mosque is a house of God. an idol is there, then you are praying to idol. But even amongst the Hindus, you have people who are nirakars, and people who are believe in sakar god. So Arya Samajis are Hindus and they don't believe in idol worship. So how do you do the worship? That is not a point. Is it a place, a religious place? The character of a religious place can be seen from a distance without any inquiry and without any survey and without any archaeological evidence. Because a character should be seen visible. You need not dig the ground to find out the character. In fact, one of the weakest point of the Babri Masjid debate is, had mosque not been demolished, no one would have ordered the kind of ASI survey which was done there, because it was
Yeah.
demolished. That you were able to do it.
But prayer is a complex thing, like Gyanvapi. I think it was you who said, that both communities can pray. Prayer is a complex thing.
What I had said was this: ideally, they should resolve amicably and resolve in such a way that both have a feeling that we have won. I don't know what will be the concrete
What that
solution.
might look like. Yes.
But I had also said and I had written that if both cannot pray, let us say, it would lead to further, escalation of tensions, and then one may be allowed a silent prayer, that, or both may be allowed a silent prayer. That here is a dedicated place for you, here is a dedicated place for you, but both of you can pray, but come and pray silently. That would be a model we would present to the world, that look how a civilization which is 7,000-8,000 years old can resolve contentious religious disputes.